gotten nice and quiet. That's good. I don't need the mic. I'd like to introduce our concertmaster, Charlene Shoemaker. She'll get us tuned up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I would love to thank you all for coming out this afternoon to Victory Lutheran Church. I'm the Director of Worship and Music here, and we're so grateful to have the East Valley Pops Orchestra back with us again. It's always a joy. I know that you're in for a treat. If you don't have a church home, I'd invite you to come back to one of our weekend services. We don't always have this in here, but we do have good music at our Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning services, so you're always welcome to come back for one of those. I would also like to invite you to come back to our next concert, which is going to be March 9, and that's for the Main Street Brass Quintet. And I got to hear them practicing in here this past week, and that's also going to be a great afternoon of music. So March 9, 3 o'clock. All of our concerts are always free will offering, and there's always a reception afterwards, so it's just a great time to come out, enjoy some music, and just spend some time together. The East Valley Pops Orchestra you can read about if you've got a program, and I also know that they'll be sharing a little bit with you as we go through this afternoon. So without further ado, I would like to welcome you to the East Valley Pops Orchestra and their director, Julie Mahoney. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. I guess the master control is over there. Okay. Thank you so much. We're so thrilled to be back here at Victory Lutheran Church for this series. We were here 2 years ago and had a great crowd, and we obviously have a great crowd today as well. Thank you all for coming. The orchestra was founded in 1982, so this is our 43rd season, and this is actually my 31st season conducting the orchestra. So, and you know, I was just thinking about that last night, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've been conducting this orchestra longer than my actual teaching career, because I taught for 30 years. So, but I think it maybe goes without saying that I do it because it gives me great joy. And working with this amazing group
of people. I mean, they are just awesome. Do you know we put on a concert last night? A full 90-minute concert, and here they all are this afternoon, ready and raring to go. Well, they might be dragging a little. As I say, they're a great bunch. And hey, this would be a good time for me to remind you, orchestra, there's no rehearsal tomorrow. Yay! Chris and I agreed they needed a day off. But I would also like to mention what you're looking at here behind me. These people are all volunteers. They're doing this for the love of music. They are not paid musicians, so they're fabulous people. Okay, enough of that. Don't want their heads to get too big. All right, we have a lovely tune coming up for you. It was first recorded and released by old Blue Eyes himself, Frank Sinatra, in 1966. And it reached #1 on several of the charts at the time. And the success of the tune led to the release of the album, Strangers in the Night. And that is the tune we're going to play. And the title tune, of course, was on that album. And that particular album became Frank Sinatra's most popular album that he ever recorded. He won, that recording won him a Grammy Award for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance and a Grammy Award for Best Record of the Year. So little wonder that nearly 60 years later, we're still playing this tune and still enjoying this tune, Strangers in the Night. Thank you so much. Well, I think it's time for a little story. It's a fun story. I love to tell it. I hope you'll enjoy it as well. Brent and Sheila Hill were vacationing in Austria when they had an unfortunate car accident on a dark and stormy night. When Brent came to, he realized he had a head wound and his wife was unconscious. In spite of his own injury, Brent knew he had to carry her to help. So he picked her up and began trudging down the road in the rain. Ahead, he saw a light coming from a large old house. When Brent knocked, a small, hunched man opened the door, and he immediately said, "Hello, my name is Brent Hill, and this is my wife, Sheila. We've been in a terrible accident, and my wife has been seriously hurt. Can I please use your phone?" "I'm sorry," replies the hunchback, "but we don't have phone. But my master is doctor. Come in, and I will get him." As Brent brings his wife in, an elegant man comes down the stairs and says, "I'm afraid my assistant may have misled you. I am not a medical doctor, but I am a scientist. It is many miles to the nearest clinic, and I have some medical training, so I will see what I can do. Igor brings them down to the laboratory." Down in a dank dungeon, Igor placed Sheila on a table, and Brent collapsed on another table, finally succumbing to his own wound. The scientist said, "Things are serious, Igor. Prepare a transfusion." Igor and his master worked feverishly, but to no avail. Brent and Sheila were no more. The death of Mr. and Mrs. Hill greatly upset the scientist, and with a heavy heart, he climbed the steps to his conservatory and sat at his beloved pipe organ. For it was there that he always found solace, and he began to play, filling the house with a stirring, haunting melody. As the music filled the mansion, Igor, in the dank dungeon, noticed the fingers on Sheila's hand beginning to move. Stunned and amazed, he watched as Brent's arm began to rise. He was even more astonished as Sheila sat straight up. Unable to contain himself, he rushed up the stairs to the conservatory shouting, "Master, Master, they are alive! The hills are alive with the sound of music!" Thank you very much. I knew you'd appreciate my little story. And if you really like it, you can come up afterward and I'll sell it to you for $1.25. Well, you probably have figured out we're going to play The Sound of Music. We've got a beautiful medley with many, many tunes from The Sound of Music. And I just want to give you a warning because there's so many different tunes. We get to Do, Re, Mi. And boy, that little section, it ends with such excitement and yum, ba, 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 bum, dun, dun. And you think, oh, that's the end, I'm going to clap. That's not the end. When we play Climb Every Mountain, then you'll know we're at the end and you can clap your hearts away. Okay, a medley of tunes from The Sound of Music. But now see, now the school teacher's coming out in me. See, I warned you all not to clap after do, re, mi. And I don't know if those people, if you just weren't listening to me or you were just so excited you just had to clap. That's probably the case. This orchestra plays with great excitement and gusto. They're a pleasure to wave my stick in front of. And you know, for the first, I think maybe 16 years that I was the conductor and musical director of this orchestra, I did it all myself. I was the only conductor, and everything was going just fine until something went badly wrong with my left arm. And I was getting really discouraged because it was very painful, and I can't remember how much treatment I was seeking out. But anyway, I thought, you know, if I had an assistant conductor to kind of lighten the load, and then I wouldn't have to be conducting for 2 hours solid every Monday. So I thought about all the members of the orchestra, kind of went through them in my mind. A lot of them were retired music educators, so I actually had quite a wide field to choose from. But in the end, I made a decision that turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life when I invited Christopher Perry to become our associate conductor, and here he is to take the podium. Chris.
Okay, Julie, I'll give you the $20 after the concert for that. Few pieces have captured the bittersweet nature of love, quite like Liebesleid, which is German for love's sorrow. And that's our next piece. It was written by the Austrian violinist and composer Fritz Kreisler. And it was written in the early 20th century as part of his old Viennese dances. It's going to reflect his deep nostalgia for the charm and elegance of old Vienna. It has a flowing, beautiful, wistful melody and evokes the gentle sadness of love. But for me, I think most of all, when I hear this piece, I just envision in my mind the glittering ballrooms of Vienna with twirling couples, ladies decked out with sparkling gowns, men in their finest suits, dancing and enjoying a fine night of music and fun. So please, as you listen to Liebesleid, whichever way you like to think, if you want to think about sad love, I mean, Valentine's Day was just a couple days ago, but I prefer to think of happy dancing, and it's such a beautiful melody, so please enjoy Liebesleid. I love it when all the violins are just in perfect sync, their bows moving up and down so elegantly. It just warms my cold conductor heart. Julie and I like to tell stories. And I have a story of my own that I'd like to tell right now, if you don't mind. And after I'm done, I'll take a guess. If you can guess correctly what piece of music we're going to do, I'll give you a free copy of the story. El Poquito was the most reluctant matador in all of Seville. He had the moves, he had the training, he had a costume, but there was one problem. He was terrified of bulls. He tried everything to boost his confidence. Meditation, deep breathing, even hypnotism, but nothing worked. The other matadors teased him mercilessly, especially Guapissimo, the most famous matador in all of Spain. One day, Guapissimo said to himself, "I will play a joke on that coward El Poquito. I will teach him once and for all that he has no business being in my business." So before El Poquito's next bullfight, Guapissimo gave him an ornate golden belt buckle. And he says, "This buckle has been worn by the greatest matadors in history. It is enchanted with the luck of champions. As long as you wear it, no bull can ever touch you." El Poquito was intrigued. He says, "Really?" "Absolutely," Guapissimo lied. "Now go and fight with confidence." Feeling a new surge of bravery, El Poquito strutted into the arena, his chest puffed out, his hands on his hip. The crowd was cheering. The bull was released. It was massive. It was angry. It was charging. He gulped, but he stood his ground. He gripped his cape, and he trusted in his lucky belt buckle. The bull got closer and closer, and just as he was about to make his first daring sidestep, his belt snapped. The golden buckle glittered in the air as it spun in front of him. He cried out in distress, reaching for his lucky talisman, but just as he did so, his pants fell down to his ankles. And then he tripped over his pants and fell face first onto the ground. The next thing everyone in the crowd saw was El Poquito's behind pointed straight up in the air. The bull was confused. It skidded to a halt directly in front of El Poquito's proudly presented posterior. The crowd erupted. Vendors dropped their churros. The King of Spain spilled his sangria. A woman in the front row even fainted. The bull, now visibly disturbed, took a cautious step back, then another, and then with the look of an animal that has seen something it can never unsee, it turned around and it ran from the arena. The announcer, barely able to contain himself, boomed, "Increíble! The bull has been outclassed. El Poquito has won." Guapissimo was furious. "That wasn't a victory," he shouts. "That was nothing but a full moon." But it was too late. The judges had declared him the winner. And from that day on, El Poquito was the only matador in history to ever win a bullfight by pure cheek. Oh, okay. I could tell pity applause when I hear it. But listen, if there's any of you that secretly like that joke, come see me afterwards, and for $1.50, I'll give you a copy of it. Now, but who can guess what piece of music we're going to do? Oh, come on, matadors and so what is that from? Carmen! He wins the prize. He wins the golden belt buckle. We're going to do 3 movements from Carmen. And if the name Carmen doesn't mean anything to you, you will recognize all 3 of these tunes. They are famous tunes. You probably heard them on a cell phone ringtone or a commercial. My sons even told me the other day that they're actually in a video game. I don't know which one, but these are really famous pieces of music. You're going to love them. These are 3 movements from Carmen, and if you want to clap between the movements, I don't mind. I told you you'd know that music. That was Terry Wickwire on the trumpet. And I'll tell you, those woodwinds sounded fantastic. Nice job, woodwinds. Yeah, please do. Give them applause. I think it's worth pointing out that we're missing 2 of the clarinets, and you 2 carried it awesome. That was fantastic. So, let's move on. This next piece of music is one of my favorite songs of all time. And it's because it's from one of my favorite movies of all time. When I was in high school, a friend introduced me to Breakfast at Tiffany's. How many of you have seen Breakfast at Tiffany's? Gosh, I love that movie. I love Holly Golightly. I love Cat. I like them all. It's a great movie. It's full of heart, full of laughs. But it's also got this fantastic song written by Henry Mancini, and Johnny Mercer wrote the words. And it's called Moon River. There's a scene in the movie where Audrey Hepburn's sitting on the balcony of her apartment and just playing her guitar, and it's just so lovely, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful piece of music. And so we're going to play an orchestral arrangement of Moon River, and we're not going to sing it, but we have something even better. I think it's really fantastic, is we've got Hans Petersen, who is not just a fine violinist and fiddler, but also a harmonica player, and he's going to join us for the beginning of the piece with a little bit of harmonica, just to give it that kind of that country feeling. Because, you know, Johnny Mercer, when he wrote the lyrics to Moon River, he was thinking of nostalgically about his home in Georgia, about the rivers in Georgia where he grew up. And so this piece is filled with nostalgia and love and longing, and I think the orchestra and the harmonica sound fantastic. So please enjoy Moon River, featuring Hans Petersen on the harmonica. Thank you very much. I think we're moving right on, Julie, aren't we? Yeah, that's right. Sorry, we changed our program at the last minute. So, welcome back to the podium, Julie Mahoney.
Thank you, Chris. Well, we're going to do okay, wait a minute. Okay. See, I didn't change my script. My script is still in the old order. Okay. Yes, it's fiddle time, folks. We are going to play a very familiar tune for you. You might have heard some voices call it out, Oh, Susanna, a wonderful American folk tune, but we're doing it bluegrass or fiddle style. And we're going to feature our fine violinists over here, and you are going to see them furiously fiddling away during Oh, Susanna, and it's just a lot of fun. So please enjoy our fiddling version of Oh, Susanna. Fiddlers, great job. Okay, our time is looking good. I'm just curious, how many of you have ever been to a spring training game here in Arizona? Oh, good, good, all right. So, you know that song that we sing in the middle of the seventh inning. Yes, the seventh inning stretch. And so we've got a delightful arrangement of Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Chris is going to be the narrator, and you're going to feel as if you're in the ballpark. And our announcer will call the balls and the strikes, and there'll be home runs, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then when Chris brings you in, he'll say something that will make it clear that it's time for you to join in with the singing of Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And I'm serious, nobody has an excuse not to sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Because you absolutely do not have to have a great singing voice. No way. Because it's just, everybody has to sing. So here we go, some fun with Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Welcome to baseball.
Play ball! Well, it's a beautiful day in the ballpark, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the pitch. Strike one. Bases are loaded, 2 outs. Second pitch now. Here's the windup. Strike two. Here's the next pitch. Home run! And now, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the players and the management, we invite you to join us in singing along the words to Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy some peanuts and bread.
That was fun. And we had a great announcer there. Very nice. Well, now we're going to get kind of heavy duty. We're going to have another classical offering. Carmen, of course, was classical music by George Bizet. And this piece is by the great, great composer, Ludwig van Beethoven. And Beethoven wrote many, many works, overtures, operas, string quartets, just all kinds of works. And he also wrote 9 symphonies. And the 9th symphony, of course, his last symphony, which, by the way, he was completely deaf when he wrote his 9th symphony. And that has that famous Ode to Joy melody in it that many of you know. Obviously, he was hearing it in his head, because it's a gorgeous work. But we're not doing the 9th. We're doing another symphony, a different one, and it has the 4 most famous notes ever heard, I think. Just 4 notes, and the whole movement is kind of based on just those 4 notes. And the minute you know those, the minute you hear those 4 notes, you're gonna go, oh yeah. So go. Oh yeah, I know those 4 notes. And so I just want you to really enjoy and really listen to this. It's just the first movement of the 5th Symphony. And just listen to how Beethoven works his magic, just so creatively using those 4 notes all throughout this movement. So please enjoy the first movement of Beethoven's 5th Symphony. Thank you so much. I just think it's so exciting, so much fun to play. I'm a member of the Chandler Symphony, and a few other people in the orchestra are as well. And it was just, maybe a couple years ago that we did Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. It's just something you never get tired of. Well, I'll tell you what, we are right at our last number, if you can believe it. How our time flies by. But I have some very important words to say before we play our last number, which is a really good one. You're going to love it. But I want to tell you a little bit more about our mission. When we first began in 1982, by the way, we only had like 8 members. And so it started small, just a group of musicians getting together because they enjoyed playing together. And it grew, word spread, oh, hey, come and join us. So by the time I took over in 1994, it was a full-blown orchestra with, kind of the way you see here, maybe more strings now than we had before. But anyway, and the entire mission was to make good music, play for various retirement communities, whether it would be a retirement community like, say, a Sunland Village, or maybe an RV park or a mobile home park. And it was a good mission. And we loved playing for the retirement communities. Well, in 2016, when we became the East Valley Pops Orchestra, we had a couple different names before, we wanted to find a special way to honor 2 of our members, a husband and wife couple, that were having to leave the orchestra and actually leave the state. They were going back home to Kansas. And we thought, no, we don't want to give them a plaque or a gift certificate. We want to really honor them in a special way because they were an amazing couple and amazingly generous toward the orchestra. So we established the Bill and Cynthia Ritchie Music Education Fund specifically to support instrumental music in Title I schools. And Title I schools are those schools where half or more of the students are at or near the poverty level. So these are families, friends. They can't just walk down to Milano's and just say, oh yeah, sure, I'll rent that violin for my kid and we'll buy that music book and that rosin and all these supplies. These are people that are struggling to make ends meet, struggling to pay the rent, keep their children fed and clothed. And so they turn to the schools. And yes, the schools do have instruments that they can furnish. But I know from my own experience, because I taught for 17 years in Title I schools, sometimes you run out of instruments. Or sometimes your instruments are in poor repair and you don't have enough money to replace them. So here's what we feel so strongly about. We don't ever want a young person who really wants to play an instrument to be turned away because their school doesn't have an instrument to give them. We want every child to be able to fulfill their dream if this is what they want to do. So we established the Ritchie Fund, we call it for short. And now our orchestra, the East Valley Pops Orchestra, is a 501c3 educational charitable organization in the eyes of the IRS, in the eyes of the US government. But when people donate to the Ritchie Fund, we make that separate. We set that apart, and all dollars donated go directly to the schools. We don't take any overhead to pay for our insurance or pay for our music. We rely on other sources for that. So there will be a free will offering, as Kristen mentioned, and we are splitting that with the church, which we're happy to do, but the portion that we take will go exclusively to those Title I schools. And by the way, we've got 2 exciting performances just around the corner. On March 3rd, we'll be playing for 9 different schools at Keno Junior High School, which is more in the central part of Mesa, and we'll be, hopefully, if our fundraising is successful, we'll be gifting each one of those schools in attendance with $1,500, and that will mean a lot to those teachers and those students. And then 2 days later, we're performing in the awesome, beautiful Chandler Center for the Arts on that beautiful stage in that beautiful hall. I'm sure many of you have been there for performances. And we'll be performing for over 1,100 students from the Chandler schools. So that's very exciting for us. So as you walk out the door, think about everything I've said and give generously, and I promise we will use it wisely. And now it's time for that last tune that I told you is a great tune, and Maestro Perry needs to come back to conduct that so I can play it on my viola.
Instead of a traditional introduction to this next piece, I'd like to just read a poem. This is a poem by a woman named Carol Boston Weatherford, and every word of this poem is a title of a jazz or pop song or American class, like a classic American song. I think you'll recognize some of them, and we're going to play, and then the piece is a Cole Porter medley, and there are Cole Porter titles in this poem, and so if you know Cole Porter, maybe you'll hear them. If not, you'll love the tune anyway. But here's the poem. It's called Lullaby of Jazzland. It was written in the stars, a child is born. From that moment on, I only had eyes for you. What a difference a day made since I fell for you. Zing went the strings in my heart. You're so nice to come home to make believe, tea for two, magic moments. I'm glad there is you. Just a sitting and a rockin' in the still of the night, swinging on a star. I could write a book too marvelous for words. I see your face before me. How my heart sings. Do I love you? Deed I do. Fidgety feet, I get a kick out of you. Let's take a walk around the block. On the sunny side of the street, come rain or come shine, my funny Valentine, please be kind. Anything goes, and the best is yet to come. Jeepers, creepers, time after time you go to my head, cheek to cheek, night and day, dancing in the dark. Love is the sweetest thing. What a wonderful world. Countdown, stardust. Close your eyes. Hit the road to dreamland. You're my everything. What is there to say? All I do is dream of you. There is no greater love. Salute. Do you guys want one more number just to take you out? This next one's fun. It calls for more instruments than we happen to have. It's called 76 trombones. But we've got, how many trombones we got? Four. So we're going to have everyone else play along. Please enjoy 76 trombones from the Music Man. Thanks again for being such a great audience. Thanks again for helping us with our cause. We want to make a difference, and we are making a difference. And it's thanks to people like you that we can do so. So have a great afternoon. This is 76 trombone. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much, Victory, for inviting us here. Thank you so much, Kristen. Take care.